Let's begin with a foundational law of logic, the law of non-contradiction. Simply put, something cannot be both true and false at the same time in the same sense. For example, water cannot be both entirely frozen and entirely boiling at the same moment under the same conditions. This principle applies to worldviews and religions. If two religions make opposing truth claims, they cannot both be true. Truth, by definition, excludes falsehood. When we look closely, we see that every major religion makes exclusivist claims about ultimate reality. Christianity says Jesus is God incarnate. Islam says he's a prophet, not God. Judaism denies that he is the Messiah. Atheism denies any divine existence at all. These cannot all be true simultaneously. This brings us back to the law of non-contradiction. Now, how do we evaluate which worldview actually makes the most sense? Here are three key tests. Logical consistency. Does the worldview avoid internal contradictions? Empirical adequacy. Does it align with what we know from science, history, and human experience? Existential relevance. Does it meaningfully address life's biggest questions: identity, suffering, love, morality, and destiny? Let's briefly apply these tests. Naturalistic atheism is often logical but struggles to explain morality, personhood, and meaning. It often leads to existential despair or nihilism. Hinduism and Buddhism offer rich spiritual traditions, but they often fail the test of logical coherence and historical grounding. Islam has strong monotheism and ethical structure, but denies core historical claims of Jesus' death and resurrection. Christianity passes all three tests. It's logically coherent, historically grounded, and existentially fulfilling. It explains both the brokenness of the world and the hope for restoration through Jesus Christ. And unlike every other religion, Christianity is the only worldview where salvation belongs solely to God, not based on our righteousness, but on His, accomplished through the perfect life, death, and resurrection of His divine Son, Jesus. All other worldviews rely on human effort or moral performance, which ultimately falls short. Christianity stands alone in offering grace, not works. Ask yourself, does this worldview explain where everything came from? Does it make sense of right and wrong? Can I live it out consistently? Does it offer hope that satisfies my soul? Here's something remarkable. Almost every worldview must say something about Jesus. He is the common denominator, the crossroads of belief systems. Islam calls him a prophet, Hinduism calls him a guru, secularism reduces him to a teacher, Christianity alone calls him God incarnate, crucified, and risen. And unlike other religious founders, Jesus' life is uniquely anchored in history. He lived in a documented place and time. His followers claim to see him die and rise again. The resurrection was not metaphorical, it was physical, eyewitnessed, and world-changing. C.S. Lewis once said, "You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher." So Jesus becomes the fork in the road for every person. And he asked this question in Matthew 16:15, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter responded, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." That is the only answer that makes sense logically, historically, and existentially. Jesus is not merely a prophet, a moral guide, or a spiritual symbol. He is the way, the truth, and the life. He is God himself who took on flesh, conquered sin and death, and invites you into eternal life. So we end with this. Who do you say that he is? That's the most important question anyone will ever answer. If this message made you think, like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep asking the big questions together.